Uh, yeah, so election month is still going on. I find that kind of
Sort
interesting.
of.
Yeah, I remember
I'll
seeing
be
that.
glad it's fucking over.
Yeah, I think everybody will. No matter where you lie, I think anybody would just be glad for it to be over. But you got these people. You got a lot of things going on with this election month as far as the free speech aspect is concerned. You got those knuckleheads up in the House and the Senate, interviewing all those tech overlords, as you like to put them. Was that your term, tech overlords?
It wasn't my term, but it works.
Yeah, and then you've got people in the streets voicing their 1A opinions, and
But you can't get together for Thanksgiving.
yeah, let's pause before we get like knuckle deep in some shit. So, thank you everybody for tuning into the show. I'm Jake,
I'm Drake,
and this is the Jake and Drake Show, and today's topic is going to be free speech.
and today's episode brought to you by Muscle Relaxants.
Soma. I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
Apparently, I thought muscle relaxers, to get off topic, muscle relaxers and painkillers were the same thing.
No. Muscle relaxers relax the muscles. Painkillers kill the pain. The muscle relaxers can have a pain killing effect by relaxing the muscles that are causing pain,
Hmm.
but depending on what's going on um, with your back or whatever muscle that needs relaxing, it may have no effect.
I feel like we should have covered this last week, but we just didn't get around to it apparently. So we might have it.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. No camera today because, well, I'm not physically able to set things up properly at the moment.
Yeah,
That's
poor.
what happens when you get old. You can look forward to this, Jake.
I can look forward to that.
Yeah, getting old.
I mean, there are a few things I do to try to like. I mean, because you can't fight Father Time, right? But maybe you can slow him down. Wave like a fiery stick at him. Like, get out of here. Something
You'll
of that
find you'll
nature.
find parts of your body you didn't know that existed.
Hmm. I mean, I did tear an ACL. I did have elbow surgery. I broke a toe, and yeah, I've got some scars, man. So I'm looking forward to it. Aging gracefully, like fine scotch, which is another drug. So drugs part two in the mix. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah, so yeah, we're talking about clowns in the streets, but no Thanksgiving.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the signs protect you from the Rona, right?
Yeah, it is a very smart virus. It is
It only comes out after 10 p.m.
correct. It only attacks
and
one side of the political party, right?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep,
If you're doing anything social justice related, it completely ignores you.
of course,
But if
because
you're worshiping or basically living your life, living all your constitutional rights, it's gonna get you.
yeah, I saw some screenshot of a TV news blurb that showed, like, I think it was California. They said, no gatherings over 10 people, no no singing, no loud music. So I have no idea, but apparently loud music attracts the Rona,
Oh, I didn't think of that.
and yeah, I don't know. But if you get down to the nitty gritty, these are just, they're looking at and pulling the same Puritan shit that they did way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I heard an interesting blurb about I think it was Jim Jordan. I'm pretty sure it was Jim Jordan. I'm like 90% sure. I put $500 down that I think Jim Jordan said it. He's a congressman from Ohio, and he said something to the effect of, you know, it's kind of bullshit what's going on with the governors and the Rona and all the lockdowns and all that stuff. And he said it's times like it's not the normal times. It's like the normal time. The normal times. Not saying they don't matter, but it's like in times of distress or times of extreme circumstances that the Constitution matters the most. Which I agree. Like I don't know. So many avenues to approach from. So let's talk about this free speech aspect from the Rona, since that's the last thing we talked about. Then we'll back it up and we'll talk about tech overlords, and then we'll hit the general. Um, so you even have you had the Trump guys out in D.C. and you had Antifa and BLM hang out with them, and then of course before that you had the Biden people, yay Biden won people peacefully assembling. And something that bothers me is is the fact that mm, only certain people get to have rights. It feels like it almost feels like slavery. Okay, um, like if you were a slave, you couldn't own property, you couldn't vote, you didn't have free speech. Nothing applied to you. Couldn't arm yourself. And then when you look at like the one side of the political aisle, it's like nobody is going out there, pre election, all these riots going on in Portland. People are executing their First Amendment right. Yet, right, we said people couldn't have gatherings of more than whatever. People couldn't go to church. People were getting arrested, but people could peacefully assemble. And those people, most of the time, I say most of the time because I don't want to condemn what the people were doing, right? Like I give a fuck if there was a Rona or whatever going on. Like that shouldn't stop people from peacefully assembling and protesting and saying something's wrong. Regardless of whether I believe in it or not. But when you had the Trumpers out there, then you had all the other people. Like I said, like you had the people that were not Trumpers, and nobody stopped them. Nobody was out there fighting them. Nobody was out. I mean, these dudes would would assemble. They would protest, and in some cases, they would burn some shit down. And if you lived in Portland, then that was probably like every fucking day. Um, Now you're talking about when the Trumpers go out there and they protest, and maybe they're not even protesting. Maybe they're just, I don't know, they're having a rally, where they're not protesting anything. They're just saying, hey, we love the president, and everybody look at our support. We're going to drive cars. And they're getting attacked for it. A couple people being killed. So it's almost like slavery where these people are cool with infringing on someone else's right to free speech. People will show up to Trumper rallies or Trumper protests or whatever just to counter them. And the thing is, nobody goes to these BLM and Tifa protests and stops their freedom of speech. And then shit ends up getting burnt down, you know.
Well, okay, hold on a second.
Mm.
'Cause, I mean, the ones going to the right wing ones are counter protesters, and you've seen counter protesters show up at the BLM protests.
I have seen those, but that wasn't 100%. I think that's what maybe I didn't explain. So 100% of the time, if there were Trumpers doing something, there were counter protesters. If Antifa or BLM was doing something, every now and then you might have the Proud Boys or I don't know.
That's because the right wingers tend to have the jobs and have other responsibilities and things that they've got to go do.
Mm.
So they schedule their protest, and the usual, you know, left wing groups come out and counter protest and stir shit up so the whole thing gets shut down. Well, I don't want to take that back because both sides stir shit up. So I don't want to put the blame on one side or the other. But
Mm.
shit gets stirred up and the whole thing gets shut down. And now apparently the Proud Boys is having a faction split inside their own ranks, and the white supremacist side's coming out
Is there a
and
white
separating.
because the Proud Boys were founded by a
Allegedly,
Hispanic guy?
yeah, but allegedly there's the white supremacist side coming out and splintering off now. Um, I don't know because I don't know any Proud Boys, and I don't, you know, I mean, I don't not associate with them, but I don't know anybody and don't associate with them, so I
Mm.
don't know any of the details. Just kind of what's been going around social media and the catchy headlines, clickbait headlines.
Right.
But
And to be honest, I don't think I've seen. I mean, as much as the news media likes to lie and push like a narrative, I haven't seen anything about, like they say white supremacists, but I haven't seen any footage of white supremacists protesting anything. I really haven't. I haven't seen.
well, they
Uh,
had that Charlottesville one,
yeah, but that was what, 2 years ago. I'm
yeah, a
talking
couple years ago.
like recently. Yeah, okay, that did happen, but since then, where are the Nazi flags? Where are, I guess, the burning crosses? Where is anything that's like anti everything except white going on?
Well, allegedly that's the Proud Boys splinter group.
Mm,
So I don't know. Like I said, I don't associate with them. Um, I don't specifically not associate with them either, but it's just they don't follow my circle of acquaintances or friends. So
yeah, and that being said, I haven't seen any white supremacists. Did not know that there were white supremacists in the Proud Boys, which would be kind of weird because, like I said, the founder was a minority, and there were quite a few people up on the high end of that chapter that were minorities. There was
well, I
Cubans,
honestly
a couple
I think a lot
blacks.
of it came out of there being designated a hate group,
Hmm.
and oh look, here's this large group that's a hate group, so it drew in people who wanted to join a hate group. Um, and those people are now being disillusioned, realizing, hey, these guys aren't a hate group, and are splintering off to their own
Hmm.
whatever.
I could see
But
that.
again, this is purely speculation.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for their organization. I have no idea about it. Um, from what I've known of them in the past, they seem like a eh, not people I'd party with and hang out. I kind of grew up and stopped all the drinking and rowdiness, but
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what they do, right? They show up, they rally or they protest, and then they go drink, right?
yeah.
That's what I'm meant to do. Yeah. Yeah. So you got those guys, then you got the other guys where nobody really counter protests them. Nobody organizes anything. In fact, I think you see just more people like during those footages of protests. You see more cops. You see camera peoples. You see citizens, and then you see like protesters that aren't. I don't know, man. It's a very skewed situation because on one end you have everything behind one side. You have the media, you have academia, you have Hollywood, which is not to say Hollywood's not the media, but there's a difference between like an actor on a movie and an actor on a news show. So I mean, you got the Twitterati, academia, colleges, universities. Everybody supports one side saying what they want to say, and in my opinion, some of the shit that the one side says is pretty fucking racist. But I also know that when it comes to racism, when it comes to stuff of that nature, like I'm not saying it's cool, but I'm not. It's not illegal. It's constitutionally there for you to exercise your right to wave a flag in the street and say you hate white people. But at the same time, it's also your protected right to say you wave a flag and you hate black people. There's nothing illegal about it. I can say I feel like it's highly immoral. I don't think anybody would disagree unless you were one of those two sides. But you have one side out in the streets during the Rona, not social distancing, sometimes not wearing masks. We won't even getting into the rioting, but they're allowed to practice their right to free speech and basically sometimes say very racist things. Basically judging people by the color of their skin versus who they actually are. That's racism in a nutshell. And then you have the other side, which doesn't have Twitter, doesn't have CNN, Fox, MSNBC, doesn't have Captain America and the Hulk and whoever a whole bunch of those Avengers. You know what I mean. You don't have a bunch of actors and actresses like standing up for your right to free speech. It's just I don't know. I think like one of our earlier guests said. I mean, you might be heading for like a civil war. It might be kind of pretty fucking crazy in the next few years. Yeah.
I don't want to pontificate on whether or not we're going to have a civil war,
Hmm.
um, but I do think that we are fracturing as a nation. Um, I think a good portion of that is due to social media and the fact that you can put your opinion out there in a half second without thinking about it, and generally without any repercussions because you know, you're not standing in front of somebody who can punch you in the nose or
Mm-hmm.
calling him this, that, or the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's basically what it boils down to. Glad you brought up the social media aspect. We'll go ahead and segue into that. So, once again, talking about bias and hypocrisy when it comes to that freedom of speech, and we now go into the tech overlord.
Well, before we do that, I want to mention there's a lawsuit. I'm trying to find the details on it. I just read about it. That's saying that masks have become so politicized that mask mandates are essentially infringing on free speech because by not wearing a mask, you're exercising your right to speak out against the government oppression against liberty, and by forcing people to wear masks, then you are now essentially um, restricting someone's free speech. I'm trying to find
No, it
the
makes complete
article.
sense. It's like a freedom of expression, right? Just like how do you want to dress? Do you want to wear a blue shirt? Well, no, the government says you have to wear a red shirt. Like, no, I think I want to wear a blue shirt. Um, I mean, to caveat off of that though, that's the government saying when you're in a public area or even your own fucking household, your private property, and in the public, you have to wear a mask, right? So
Right.
if Target says you got to wear a mask to shop there, that's between you and Target's a private business, and they have the right to do what they want to, and you have a right to shop somewhere else.
Exactly. And while I don't agree with these mask mandates and whatnot, um, I do support a business's right to enforce that if they so choose, but
Mm-hmm.
not a dictator governor
Mm-hmm.
um, who's trying to, I don't know,
I'd push
keep
push push the envelope to see how fucking far they can go, right?
pretty much is what it kind of seems like to me.
And then at the same time, those governors, quite a few of them, have been observed breaking their own laws, breaking their
Oh
own
yeah,
executive. I mean, we had just recently Gavin Newsom, right? He was eating with some people
yep.
after
Out with
hours
lobbyists, out with
indoors, yes.
indoors.
And I think what I heard is some of those were
14.
his health experts, you know, right? And then you,
No, no, I don't. I thought the health experts one was like their trip to Hawaii. California is
oh,
sending a whole bunch of health people to Hawaii for a retreat.
right, yes, you're
Uh,
right.
I'm not sure who was at that dinner with good old Newsom,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean it's rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Same with the governor in Pennsylvania. I think was just caught on film out to dinner in public, not social distancing, not wearing their masks, and got confronted.
I saw that. I didn't know if that was Jersey or Pennsylvania, but I did see where he's outside with his whole family,
Yeah.
and then the couple ladies came up to him and like, "Oh, look, it's so and so."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And then you had Gretchen Whitmer, the Michigan woman. She had all these lockdown rules, but her husband's out boating and partying with his friends.
Well, of course, rules for thee, but not for me.
And then of course our favorite governor, Andrew Cuomo. I won't even go there. That's a long laundry list of things. But yes, so we're gonna mandate
Can you
you.
believe that cocksucker's getting an Emmy?
and he's getting a pay raise. No, I can't believe it, but I mean, yeah, I can. That's the left constantly themselves, right? Like, just refer to it as getting, the leftists remove their bottom two ribs so that they can, I mean, it's really that's what it is. An Emmy.
For those who can't see, Jake's making the blowjob motion like he's sucking his own dick
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing. Um, but I mean, we all knew, like, I mean, I guess getting off topic, we all knew that like the 15 days was. I mean, I knew that it was going to be more than 15 days, and I knew that it wasn't going to stop shit. Even New Zealand locked down, and they were like, "Yeah, we've eradicated the COVID," and all of a sudden, whoop, they got another spike, and so they're shutting their country down again. And it's like, look, it's it's gonna happen. At this point, we know the medicine. We If we aggressively treat it, you're looking at like a 98% survival rate across the board.
You
Um,
have you have 1 in 300,000 chance of dying from it unless you're already compromised.
well, that's what I'm saying, including compromised people. So, including everybody in the U.S. population, the old people, the compromised people, and then the healthy people. Like, if you find out you have it, if it's aggressively treated at this point, 10, 11 months deep into this shit with three vaccines ready to be distributed, um, you have a 98% chance to live. Just saying, you know.
And
Uh,
if you're not over 70, you've got a 99.9% chance of living.
yeah, probably even more so. It's probably, but yeah, let's go back to these. So these guys lock us down, and if you're if you're the left, if you're out there in the streets protesting, you can observe your rights. But if you're the right, not only are you subjected to, because remember, like when President Trump was holding campaign rallies, it was all over the news. You know,
Well, yeah, they're super spreader events, don't you know?
super spreader events, and it got to a point where I remember seeing people weren't even able to practice their religion. So the pastor said before the church service began, he said, "Due to government restrictions, we can't hold church service, so we are here peacefully protesting." And everybody laughed. And it's funny, but it's also pretty fucking sad. So if you're protesting a sexual deviant's murder, if you're protesting a drug abuser's murder, if you're protesting a girl that was murdered by the cops because her husband was dealing dope and they didn't knock on the front door, whatever fucking happened, it's okay to be out in the streets in mass. It's okay to be out in the streets without masks. In mass is what I said. And but if you're the right, it's
Well,
not okay, and even more
and
so.
and
Oh, go ahead.
to touch on that though, they're protesting the wrong things. They started out protesting, you know, Black Lives Matter, the movement, which is a good noble cause.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, fucking Purple Lives Matter. And I understand the concern behind it, the rebuttal for, when people say, well, all lives matter. Well, yeah, yeah, you know what? I understand Black Lives Matter. However, these organized protests now are run by Black Lives Matter Inc., which their mission on their site is to basically make the United States a socialist, Marxist socialist nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that. So yeah, go protest, but just be honest about what you're fucking protesting. We want socialism. Okay, go out and do that and say that, and we'll see how much support you get.
Mm. Yeah, it is. I don't know, dude. Like, I read a lot of those books growing up in high school because you kind of had to. It was like the what is the term? Not post apocalyptic, but like kind of like those books, like Fahrenheit 451 or
Great fucking book.
right.
In fact, one of my favorite books of all, actually probably my favorite book of all time. I have numerous copies. Uh, numerous. I have a true first edition of that in paperback, and it's in shitty condition, and I still paid a decent amount for it. But yeah, great fucking book.
Yeah, there's a lot of like I remember one. It was along the lines. It wasn't as extreme, but did you ever read like the Giver?
The
You know,
Giver.
the Giver. It was like the one guy in the society that the guy that was chosen from birth. I think like one of the characteristics was the child would have like gray eyes. So the one person in this whole communist society was in charge of like keeping like all the memories and all everything. And so it was like a society where nobody was allowed to free think. Everybody ate the same food, they dressed the same, they all went to school, and then they all went to work. And then there was like one chosen one from the society. I mean, they made a movie about it. I saw it. It wasn't that good, but like the guy was like 90 something and he had to pass down all the information for this, and his whole job, that the person's whole job is to keep people conformed, to keep people not being individuals, to keep them like groupthink. So essentially what he does is, this child is born. I forget what it is. I think it's like Gabriel or something, and he passes down all the memories to this kid, and this kid starts to ask more and more questions as to like, well, why aren't people allowed to know what the color red looks like? Why aren't they not allowed to know what? Because he's experiencing, and he doesn't know, and he's experiencing all these things to this guy who retains all the individual traits that any normal human being would have in this society. And it was interesting. I mean, you read this shit in high school, and then you turn around and you kind of like you're like looking around like, dude, this is getting kind of crazy right now. But that was a good book too, The Giver. I don't. It's like eighth grade reading, but and it's probably like 200 or 300 pages. It's not a lot. It's a really good book. But yeah, dude, like Fahrenheit 451, Atlas Shrugged, The Giver. There's a lot of those post-apocalyptic books where everybody's living in this society without any individuality. Everything is groupthink. Nobody's allowed to speak freely, and it's when was Fahrenheit 451 written? Like in the fucking 30s?
No, not that far back. I think it was I want to say 50s.
Let's look it up. Fahrenheit. It was written.
53.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was gonna say I think it was written after World War II. Um, but yeah, kids nowadays, like obviously the people that don't have jobs, as you said, the ones out there protesting, they don't have jobs, and it seems like the left has taken such a control on the academia. Like I didn't like reading books like that, but I read them and I understood what they meant. And, it's like there's been a few protests where people were burning books. And, essentially, if we can relate books to social media and, you have all the fake news media, the legacy media, as I think the new term is, the legacy media, and then you have the social media censoring a completely different view from their own, that's essentially burning books right there. It's essentially creating a groupthink.
Well, I would agree that it's creating groupthink. I wouldn't quite put it at the level of burning books. I mean, there are people who still advocate burning books and getting rid of things and stopping publishing. I mean, uh, with all the critical theory stuff coming out, if it goes against critical theory, then they're going to oppose you and ban, fight the publisher and things like that. What is what was her name? She wrote a book about, man, what was her name? She wrote a book about the uh, transgender youth transitions, basically.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
and I mean, it got pulled from Target for a night, basically,
Hmm.
because
Off of two
of
two people on Twitter.
something like that,
They probably don't even
and would
shop at
probably put
Target.
back. Probably not. And yeah, they certainly wouldn't be buying their books there. But it's and the person came out and even said, you know, yeah, no, I want to suppress this speech. This is not, I don't agree with it. Um, it is wrong to think this, and I will continue my efforts to do so.
Hmm.
And I think the next day they did the same to somebody else, another book. on that opposes critical theory.
Mm-hmm.
And James Lindsay does a lot of analysis into that, and even wrote a great book, Cynical Theories.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the guys who did the those fake papers, those fake academic papers, and on just the craziest of shit, and and submitted them, and they got published. And then they came out about woke studies in academia. So it is a trickle down type of situation where you know you go to college, and then you get bombarded with their type of thinking. You have to think this way, you have to support this way, you have to believe this way,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise you're going to be cast out. And
Or you won't even pass. You're not going
well,
to
yeah, you
pass
got to get past,
college.
but no, but you're going to be cast out of the college. I mean, they've had people who've disagreed and been open and vocal about it getting kicked out of schools.
Mm.
So you've got to follow their march in step with them, otherwise you're screwed. And James Lindsay did those co-authored with a couple other people these papers that were just on crazy BS, all made up stuff, just to see what how woke academia would take it.
Mm-hmm.
So look him up on Twitter, Conceptual James, and follow him. He's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, we'll post a link in the description of the video. Um, but yeah, so going off of that though, uh, like I said, like this whole freedom of speech is under attack in general. Right now, the Section 230 is a hot topic. Um, your best friend is under scrutiny quite a bit these days. Homeboy from Twitter, what's the fuck's his name? Jack Dorsey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no friend of mine.
you know, friend of mine either. But I've had some debate with who was it? Okay, he who shall not be named. And essentially, his thing is, and I think that's where the disconnect is for a lot of Americans is just as we talk about Target can tell you whether or not to wear a mask if you want to shop at Target. It's like, okay, cool, I'll wear a mask, or I'm going to Walmart or something, or I'm going to Drake's store where Drake is extremely libertarian and he doesn't give a fuck, right? That's my choice. Now, when it comes to Twitter, it comes to Facebook, when it comes to YouTube, and when it comes to Google, because Google and YouTube are two different companies. Um, they enjoy that luxury of not being sued. So you had the Covington kids, right? They were protesting, wearing MAGA hats. They weren't even protesting; they were just at a rally, and they were
I
wearing.
think I think they were on this class trip to visit DC and
Oh,
no, they were there. I think they're there for a pro life rally.
yes, it was a pro-life rally. They were there, and it's a Catholic school, but it was in D.C., right? I think it
Yeah.
was in D.C. So yeah, between the two of us, we'll get the story right. And essentially, all the news media outlets, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, all these guys slandered this kid, and they said that he was a white supremacist, and he was. And then when more and more videos were leaked out, and showed that they were slandering this kid and lying, he turned around and sued him. And so far, I think he won he didn't win. They settled. I think CNN and Washington Post settled for millions of dollars. Well, good for him. But that's the thing is, this is a news media organization, and they are considered a publisher. And when you have like the Twitters and the Facebooks of the world, they're not publishers. They're supposed to be forums where people can freely voice their opinions and whatnot. And the catch is because they are public forums that they can't be publishers. And what they get out of it is, I can't sue them if somebody just runs a bunch of negative.
But they're not public forums. They are private companies,
Mm-hmm,
and they are private platforms. They are platforms, yes, but they're private platforms.
mm-hmm,
And while I do miss the good old days of the Wild West internet, where you put up a website and you said whatever the fuck you wanted, and you know dealt with your own repercussions.
mm-hmm.
um, I still believe that Twitter and Face Space and all those shitty soul-sucking sinkholes, time sinks, uh, are well within their rights to censor what they disagree with,
Sure.
just just as others are well within their rights to start their own companies. You've got Parler, which really is a honeypot started by the company, were former members of the Cambridge Analytica group. Um, so, that shit's there for data harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got Parler and you've got Gab, but they censor the other direction. If you are pushing leftist stuff or show a nipple, you can get kicked off their platform.
I can't confirm that about Parler. Parler, what I
Parler has been censoring. I know some people who were trying it out on both, and they had like OnlyFans links censored, um, topless photos censored, stuff like that. So
mm-hmm.
Parler does it too. Gab does it. Parler does it. The only true way of doing it is starting your own Mastodon shard, really. But then it's a matter of drawing the people in that you want to have.
I don't think. Here's the thing, though, is so like if we're talking about Twitter being a private company, agreed. If we're talking about Twitter, doing what they want, I agree also. But I don't see why Twitter, can't be sued because that's what 230 guarantees. Guarantee the right that the public platforms, even though we know they're private companies, they are to act like a public forum.
Well,
So
no, they can't be. The thing about that is they can't be sued for what somebody says on there.
right, right, like Turner, like if I say some shit about you and it causes you to lose your job, you can sue me, but you can't sue Twitter. That's the way it goes. But um, that's just like saying that CNN didn't necessarily say the Covington kid was racist. It might have been one of the reporters for CNN. So instead of just suing the reporter because the reporter might make 60 a year, you go after CNN because you know you're going to get more money off of them. And hopefully, if you go after the CNNs of the world or the Washington Post or whoever's writing the article, whoever's doing the interviews with the Native American that lied about a lot of the things that were going on, you discourage them from not only not only portraying people that way, but you basically hold them responsible. Like before you put a story out, you need to verify that the story is factual. Like you need to check all the blocks. Like, okay, something happened. You don't put out a story 10 minutes later, breaking news. Like, no, 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 no. If you're going to do that, just put out what you know. Don't create a narrative behind it. And when it comes to Twitter, like I said, you're right. If I go after you on Twitter and you suffer as a result, you can go after me, but you can't go after Twitter. And that's what 230 does. It prevents Twitter from being held liable for what is done on their platform. But the catch-all is they can't be a publisher, which means they can't promote or they can't censor. There's a lot of things like a
There's
lot.
nothing about censoring. In fact, Section 230 specifically uh, gives protections for removal of content.
Right now, they have now. Here's the thing. I'm glad you pointed out. It doesn't say censoring specifically, but if you posted, like, let's say you were doing investigative journalism, and let's say in this investigative journalism you found out that Michelle Obama was doing heroin in the back of the bus with Hunter Biden, and you had evidence, right? And you posted it on Twitter, and essentially they either took the story down, they blocked or banned your account, or they put a little flag on there that says this is not true. That in a sense is publishing. That's being a publisher. That's being an editor. What does an editor do? It edits something, it reviews it, and then it publishes it. Now, if Twitter was doing what they should have done, by the rules, they would just let it ride, like libertarianism in its purest. You're an adult. Hopefully, you're an adult. I mean, I don't think anybody under the age of 18 or 21 will say that much should even have a Twitter. But if you're an American, you're entitled to either think your own opinion or do your own research. That's not Twitter's job. That's not Facebook's job. So Twitter, you're right, doesn't say anything about censoring, But the minute that you alter the original post, whether you delete it, block the guy, block the people posting it, or you put a little flag next to it saying that this isn't entirely true, or it's not entirely factual, or whatever they what they did with over 150 Trump's tweets, that in a sense makes you become a publisher, because now you're an editor, and when you're editing, you're publishing. And
They're
I
not editing what he was saying though. They're putting up saying we that's their CYA disclaimer essentially.
but that's I'm glad you
Because
said that.
because if then is later completely disproven, or I should say actively proven incorrect or libelous or whatever,
Hmm.
then that's where.
And I agree, but here's
And
the other.
I I should have taken that opportunity to just say like the craziest of shit when you had your headphones off.
I could hear you. But what about when you have what about when you have somebody saying that the Holocaust, like if somebody of notoriety says that the Holocaust was a hoax and it never happened, it was all made up, and Twitter does nothing to that post, but Trump may say climate change isn't that big of a deal or something of that nature that would piss off a majority of the leftists, and it would be like, well, this isn't factual, or this or this or this. But then you have another person saying the Holocaust didn't exist, or you have another person saying um, hate speech, for example, because like you have hate speech one way. You could have a white supremacist saying that fuck black people, fuck Jews, right? But then you can have a bunch of BLM Antifa guys saying fuck white people are the root of all evil, and white people this, and nothing happens to them. They are not published. They are not edited like the other side is. So I just want to see all of the Section 230 go out the window. I think there should be a magic number. Somebody should pull a number out of the sky and say, if you know your gross revenue yearly is this much, you don't get 230 protection, because the whole point of 230 was to protect these businesses while the internet was developing, and now these companies are billion-dollar fucking companies. If they're, for one, they have more than enough money to take care of themselves, and for two, they don't play the same game both ways. I mean, they just don't. There's several. You can go through Twitter, and I've done it quite a bit. I see like people that have white check marks next to them, and they'll say like the N word in a tweet, and I'm just like, well, that's not cool. And I don't know why I get it. It's just a recommended, so I report them for hate speech, and then Twitter's like, okay, well, do you want to block them? Do you want to? I'm like, no, I just want you to not be biased. I just want you to be, have one standard across the board. Have one standard. Don't fucking edit anybody's tweets, and let people hash it out between themselves. If Darian causes me to lose my job, then let me go after Darian, and vice versa. And don't censor, edit, put disclaimers on people's tweets, because that's not free speech. Because we all know the Holocaust happened. Why is there no disclaimer next to the Holocaust never happened on blue checkmark tweets? I don't know. I don't know. Why does Ilhan Omar get to tweet about some of the vilest shit that we've heard in the past 2 years, and nothing's happened to her? So free speech is under attack. If you're watching right now, it is under attack. Am I saying call to arms or whatever? No, I'm not.
Well, free speech is definitely under attack, but it's not. The thing is, the First Amendment protects us from government interference in our speech,
Mm-hmm.
not private companies. So if you work for, and that's why when the whole NFL thing came up, and everybody was saying, oh, well, they're violating Kaepernick's free speech rights and blah blah blah. No, he's on the field performing a fucking job,
Mm-hmm.
poorly by the way, and during that time you're being paid for your job skills, not to do your own speech. So it has the whole NFL debacle had nothing to do with free speech other than they wanted to use that platform when they were covered by cameras to make a statement. And frankly, and this is just my opinion, I think Kaepernick did that knowing he was a second string quarterback and was trying to put himself in front of the camera more and kind of get buzz going. Um, the 49ers would have kept him as their backup, but he wanted more money.
Hmm.
But he's a shitty second string quarterback, and that's just that. He got lucky one season.
Yeah, he had a great season that year.
It wasn't him having the great season as much as the team. They had a solid fucking team.
They did.
Anyhow, fuck the 49ers. Fuck the Raiders. Traitors. Go Seahawks.
Las Vegas Traders. I like it. I like that. Um, Go Seahawks. I got reservations about the Seahawks mainly because of the coach, Pete Carroll, and the way that he did shit in USC before he left. And then he left that school in fucking shambles and went and got a nice head coaching job in Seattle. So I like the team. I just don't like the coach. How about that? Um, but yeah, dude, you're right. You're right about the Colin Kaepernick. He's working for a private organization that somehow is tax exempt. It's a
Is NFL tax exempt?
Yeah,
Really?
they got tax exemptions. Yes, sir.
That's some hokey bullshit. I mean, taxation is theft, but the fact that we're taxed
Yes.
and they're not is
Now,
bullshit.
the players get taxed. You know, everybody, but the organization as a whole is tax exempt, and just to also make you upset because I don't watch fucking football anymore. I didn't. Last year was probably the last year I'll watch football until sports gets their shit straight. Like I don't give a fuck about like I keep up with my politics. I don't need it in my sports. And if you're a player and you want to do politics, like hey man, X amount of hours throughout the day because I mean, dude, like what you play football for 3 months a year. The other 9 months, you do what you want to do. Get on the Twitter. Get on the. I just I don't want to turn on ESPN or the NFL and just fucking hear politics. Like Jesus Christ. But yeah, dude. He was well within his rights to voice what he wanted to voice. I just think like when it came to to me when it came to his case, aside from the fact that he wasn't that good, it was just like I have the right to tell your mom her cooking sucks. You know what I mean? I go over to your house, your mom cooks, and I'm like, man, your cooking sucks. It's free speech, man. But some things you don't do for you got to think past that initial thing and I honestly felt just to one up you on the conspiracy there like I was feeling a lot what you're saying. I just felt like his whole thing was that he kind of knew he wasn't that good and it's kind of like you have to start doing something to like build your legacy. Like you're not always going to be known for your football skills or your whatever skills. So if people know
And
you
weren't
as
the Ravens looking at him too and kind of prepping to sign him? Then his old lady started mouthing off.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing. He started dating an activist, and and then she got him to go vegan, which is probably something you don't do as a professional football player. It's just you kind of need that protein, kind of need those calories from chickens and beefs and shit. But I really thought that like he kind of knew that his career wasn't going to go as well as it went, and so he said what he said. He was kneeling and then he's wearing socks, taking shots at cops, and like I said, a lot of that he's well within his right, But it's you got to think of some stuff like it's probably not a bright idea because the people you're hurting the most are the people paying your fucking salary. So when the
And
tickets,
it works the other way too. I mean, I think it was it hockey or there's some I haven't followed really sports much either lately, but one of the sports they maybe it was NBA and they're all wearing different Black Lives Matter sponsored stuff,
mm-hmm,
and one player is like, no, I'm not going to wear that because I don't agree with the organization Black Lives Matter.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then he caught a lot of shit for it.
I think if you're talking about basketball, I know the player you're talking about. He plays for the Magic, and he said he
Yep,
was,
that might, yeah, I think it's basketball.
and he essentially, I think like the next day, within the next week, excuse me, that dude had sold like more jerseys that week than any of the other players had, like even more than LeBron James. And it was just because the dude stood up and he's like, "No, I'm not gonna. I'm not. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to, you know, practice my religion and respect my mom and dad and whatever." And I think your typical person that can afford to pay to go see a basketball game or pay to get the NBA League Pass or the NFL Sunday Ticket, I think that's how most of them are. Whether they're Democratic or Republican or Libertarian, I think most of them are hard workers, and they want a fair shake in life, and if they want to stand up and say something, they don't want to be censored or attacked for it. Like, I mean, you can always question. So I question you all the time, but I mean that's what makes this country fucking beautiful. If you don't like the president, you can openly say that you hate the president, and nobody's gonna come looking for you. In fact, in
Yet Trump's a
today's
dictator.
in
I want
fact,
to see. I want to see those fuckers do that somewhere like Venezuela, or
right,
China,
Russia.
Russia. Well,
Well, I think
yeah,
yeah. Putin's going on like his eighth term or some shit. I think it's safe to say, but yeah, dude, like free
but
speech,
yes.
baby.
Try saying that in one of those countries, and see who's a fascist dictator.
I think the one that gets me when we're talking about the president is people talking about like punching him in the face or like the who's that fucking shitty comedian, the redhead, I can't remember her name, the one where she like did
Oh,
the photo shoot
I
with
know.
like the dead Trump
Yeah.
head. Like the first year, like the thing is, if that was Obama, if people had done that over Obama, if people had done that over Clinton, like fucking heads would roll, dude. Like that woman would have never got another job in any media outlet anywhere. She would never had a stand up gig ever. And yet, I mean, it's like a it's and I had this discussion with our socialist friend. Like it's a crime to perpetrate a threat to the president of the United States, and a threat just isn't like I'm going to kill the president. It's like I'm going to injure the president. Yet we have like Robert De Niro saying, I'd like to punch him in the face. You have Andrew Cuomo saying I'd like to knock him out. You have like these people openly.
Well, no, no, no. See, there's a difference between saying I'd like to. I mean, fuck, man, I'd like to as well. Why? Because I'd go down in history as a motherfucker who punched a president.
but
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 it's the people. But a threat is saying I am going to do X, Y, Z to
mm-hmm,
person A.
mm-hmm. No, I got you. So see, you have two topics here. One is people actually threatening the president, and then you actually have like the president they're threatening. If you said anything bad about Obama, like you were never working in the media again. You were never working in Hollywood again. What you could have said is I'm voting for Romney or I'm voting for McCain. I think they're good, but you couldn't turn around and say Obama was a piece of shit. You couldn't turn around and say, man, I'd really like to punch Obama in the face, or it just wasn't acceptable. But the guy we have now, it's just what is the term I heard used? Uh, like a whatever it takes to get rid of this guy, whatever it takes to do whatever. So subverting your free speech while keeping our free speech, tearing down everything, obstructing you from your free speech, obstructing you from your civil liberties, as whatever it takes to defeat the orange man, to defeat the orange dictator, the Cheeto, whatever. And it's just a sad time, man. It's just a sad time.
Well, and I got banned from Twitter not too long ago. Too. Not banned, suspended on Twitter not too long ago. 24-hour suspension because um, I said something in response. Somebody did one of those, those fuck, marry, kill kind of polls.
No, I don't.
You never heard of the fuck, marry, kill, where like three people are listed. Fuck one, marry one, kill one. And
Fuck as in have sex with, not fuck over.
yes,
Okay.
and I don't remember who it was, but there are three god awful people, and I said something like, how come kill self isn't an option or whatever, and I got dinged, dinged for
Dude.
self harm or some shit.
Oh my gosh. I think, and you know what? Thank you for bringing it, dude. Like, I like fucking with you because sometimes, like, I forget to bring something up and then you remind me. But you know what it boils down to, uh, as far as being offensive, is it boils down to, I feel like a large majority of libertarians and conservatives, they know how to meme, they know how to joke. The humor is there.
The left can't meme.
The left cannot meme by no means. Like, um, I mean, now when it comes to talking shit about white males, white, straight, conservative, Christian males, they'll meme all day. But when it comes to let's make fun of somebody that just died, let's make fun of President Obama, let's make fun of Joe Biden, let's make fun of something that we should be entitled to make fun of. Because why not? It's humor. You know, humor is a very interesting science. You know, why it's funny, why we enjoy it, why we need it. And the left can't meme. They can't. They just get offended and triggered. And your opinion or your facts only go so far when it comes to their feelings. But what was that last topic I wanted to touch before we got out of here? We talked about the tech overlords vaguely. Like, I guess we disagree on that. I guess
I don't disagree. I would love it if they just said, "Hey, go wild," but they've got. It's not even the companies as much as the employees. Do you think Jack Dorsey sits there and looks over each of these tweets and makes a decision whether or not to let it fly? No, it's the
no.
activist employees.
Mm-hmm. So if you turn around, right, if you got rid of or I don't know, let's play two pass out. Let's say they just got rid of Section 230. They got rid of Section 230, and Twitter now becomes officially, well, they didn't get rid of it. They just kicked Twitter off of it. Maybe they keep it for, like, I don't know, what's Gab? I don't know, some small fucking platforms. But they kicked Twitter off of it, so then Twitter becomes a publisher, and you're probably going to have a lot of people leave Twitter. Not more than half, but you're going to have a significant amount of people just turn off their Twitter because they know that Twitter now cannot be held in a legal contract with the United States government as far as how it runs its service. All right, Twitter, you're out. You're no longer in the 230 club. And a lot of people would just leave because they're like, well, I post a lot of libertarian shit or I post a lot of conservative shit. And they're just going to fucking shut my account down, period. Or they're just going to censor everything I post. Or they're just going to, whatever. And in that case, you do post something and then the activist does something to your, and then you turn around and you sue Twitter. What do you think would happen? Hopefully that activist gets fired, or hopefully there's a corporate memo that goes out, right, that says this is how we're running our business, or whatever, right? And that's what if Twitter still had 230 protections, and somebody censors you because you know said something about Joe Jorgensen, and there's no you see what I'm saying? Like, it could go one of two ways. I just feel like I feel like they should get rid of 230 for YouTube, Google, Twitter, and Facebook. No.
I disagree.
So what
I
do you?
mean,
So if you're the overlord, if you're the United States overlord, what are you doing with the?
well, actually, I take that back. Frankly, I think that they should eliminate all those protections and things for everybody,
Mm-hmm,
um, and go back to the Wild West
mm-hmm.
and let people sue companies for whatever reason they fucking feel like it. And if they're just deemed a frivolous lawsuit, they'll get dinged too.
Actually, you know what? That's not a. Just let it play out, right? Just let it ride. See what happens. Because you would think that the company itself, it would police itself up so that shit doesn't happen, right? To some point, like maybe
Theoretically, but
after
open market, yeah.
yeah, after like 20 lawsuits where they had to settle for tens of millions, at some point they would either fire the fucksticks in charge. I mean, fucksticks that admin, or they would yeah. I like it. Actually, I like it, dude. I'm glad we had this conversation. I'm really glad we had this conversation. Oh, I'm sorry. the last thing I wanted to address. Okay, so right now we're still in presidential election month, right? We're still dealing with the fallout of having an election this year. What about the free speech when it comes to, and once again, we're going to go to the tech overlords, but this isn't going to be a 230 issue. This is going to be an issue with the free speech and favoring one candidate over another. And in some cases, not favoring any candidates at all. And I know I brought this up because I know there is no fucking love for your girl on any of these things. So the floor is yours.
I've got nothing to say. It's their right. They don't have to promote it. You know, the Libertarian campaign had what 2 million compared to 12 million in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is what it is.
Mm. So let's say, hypothetically, that party had more money, and then that party attacked Joe Biden, and they censored that, or they didn't censor it. They put a little blurb on there about how it's not entirely true. Click on this article provided by uh, some guy that used to write for Washington Post to see what it actually, what Joe Jorgensen actually is talking about. What about that shit?
Say again. I'm
Okay. So Joe Jorgensen puts out an ad, maybe countering what Joe Biden is saying,
right.
and instead of just running the ad freely, there's a little misnomer there that says, actually, this is mostly false. We fact checked this with our people, and the key term is fact checking because everybody likes to use it. We fact checked this. Um, Click on here to see what Joe Jorgensen actually did or said, or what Joe Biden actually said or did. And it's some article written by some guy that used to write for Washington Post. What do you think about that kind of stuff?
It neutral. I mean, it would depend on what the content of the ad, and what was being said, and whether or not it was true or not. I mean, Trump got some of those ads, thrown up because, well, frankly, they were fucking full of shit. But that's been politics have been dishonest since as far back as I can remember.
Hmm.
It's just now you've got these services who have their own goals and such in mind, so they're you know pushing their agendas.
I I don't know, man. I I I think we're just getting more and more away from what we're supposed to be as American citizens. You know, as American citizens, it's supposed to be libertarian in its like purest form. Like you see something, you hear something, either you take it for face value, or you be responsible and you go do a little research, find out if President Trump really said this, find out if Joe Jorgensen actually did that. And I mean, like, I'm like you, like Wild West that shit, dude. Wild West that shit, and it is up to the consumer of that content as to whether or not there's any validity in that content. You know what I mean? Like we don't need academia. We don't need major major news outlets telling us how to think or what to think in the sense of, like, look, just leave it out there. Just whatever was said, and it's up to you to find out if it's real or not. Yeah.
The problem is, yeah, the problem is though, you have like Facebook tried that. They went that whole route of we're not censoring ads, we're not doing anything, blah blah blah, and then finally there's so much pushback that they finally just said we're not doing any more political ads. Um, but Facebook, you're going to get pushback either way if you let it happen or you don't let it happen. And I don't think campaigns should be going out there, you know, making baseless allegations. There's enough real shit that these assholes are doing to target on. The problem is the real shit that asshole A is doing, asshole B is doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to call each other out on that stuff because they're both being assholes. So I don't think the government should meddle in any of that. I don't think that people. The problem is people are fucking stupid. They're sheep, and somebody will post this thing that's blatantly false, and then another flock of sheep will come along and start retweeting it or sharing it on face space or whatever, and it is what it is. People are fucking dumb. And what they need to do is start educating themselves. And I don't mean going to fucking college because that's not the way to educate yourself. Read books, read history, and that's why we're where we're at. We've got a bunch of dumb people who. Let me take that back. They're not dumb people. They're just sheep. They don't think for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They don't.
They don't know history and
Con-
they don't stay current on events.
well, it's not even that. They stay current on events, but they stay current via Twitter or social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they don't understand history. They don't look at fact. They don't see the big picture. They're used to that 3 second serotonin rush when they get a like on their fucking post, and that's what it is. So the problem isn't the companies as much as the people using them. If all of a sudden everybody on Twitter, like, well, let's say 60%. What do you think the left versus right balance is on Twitter?
You talking about like conservative to liberal accounts?
Yeah,
Shit, dude. I don't
whatever.
know.
Just pick a number.
70 left,
Okay,
30 right.
70%. We'll say 70%. Who are currently liberal. Let's say the numbers flip immediately,
Okay.
and we've got 70% conservative voices on Twitter now,
Mm-hmm.
screeching, and acting like sheep and whatnot. Twitter would evolve and do it that way. Twitter is just a company playing up to their fucking base.
Mm-hmm.
They profit from the users being there. So they're going to make their rules and adjust things based on those users being there. It's
Mm-hmm.
a purely fucking business decision to, moderate content or put warning banners on Trump stuff because 70% are opposed to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a numbers game. They're seeing it. That's just how it is.
That's actually something I didn't think of. That's actually pretty interesting perspective there. Actually, pretty interesting. Hmm. Hmm.
And same with Facebook.
Facebook's a little different though. I think Facebook has enough of a reach. I think Facebook. I mean, obviously, off the sheer numbers, I think Facebook it has way more of a reach than Twitter does. And at the same time, nobody in China gives a fuck about what's going on in the Twitter world. But at the same time,
I think Twitter's censored in China too.
well, I'm not saying that it's censored. What I'm saying is that like really like your average Chinese person probably doesn't have a Twitter because most of the people on Twitter are leftists. We established that. So most of the leftists are actors or they're academia or they're media, and they probably as much as we like to think, we're probably not that important in some countries. But Facebook is more like a it's I don't know, dude. It's more like I mean, it's social media, but it's different, right? It's different because uh, there's so much more to Facebook than like Twitter is just a post after a post after it's a thread full of posts, and Facebook there's a lot more. There's I have you as a friend on Facebook, and I can tag you, and we can share pictures, and you could do all that on Twitter. It's just it's not as the GUI, the graphical user interface is trash. Your birthday. I know when your birthday is. I've been off of Facebook for I don't know how many years, and I still get alerts on people's fucking birthdays. But like I'm gonna say from a Facebook since I don't know. Like I don't think the free speech infringement happens as much on Facebook as it does Twitter because Facebook has a lot more interactions than Twitter does because Twitter's mostly posts about people saying something or thinking something, and Facebook it could just be my baby took a shit. It's my birthday. Um, Help me donate to this cause. You know, Twitter is limited in what it does. Facebook is a lot more broad. Also, it's a lot more family friendly, and it looks prettier. It's like if Twitter was like rated PG-13 and it had a bunch, it was like a coloring book. I think it would essentially be like a Facebook. So I don't know if the same theory that you have would apply to Facebook necessarily because I think it would be more rounded. Maybe you're looking at like a 60-40 split because you're talking about globally. And I don't know, Facebook is more it's more for family. It's more for kids and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Like I really don't know, but that's a really interesting perspective. Like I gotta sit there and think about that later. Like so if Twitter flipped, if the Twitterverse just flipped and we're in Bizarro world, then we would be censoring shit that Joe Biden said. We would
Yep.
be okay.
It's just they're playing to their base. They are making business decisions based on making money, and the higher percentage of their user base leans one way,
Mm,
so they're playing it that way.
mm-hmm.
If it flipped, they would need to evolve or they would die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Ah, I will file that down as something worth noting. I like that. That's why I fuck with you, dude. We're about getting close to time. Do you want to go ahead and hit us with the final word, or you got something else to say?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go take the pain pill now that we're done. So I can't afford to get loopy.
Mm.
But I've got two quotes. I'm going to start with Benjamin Franklin. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech.
Mm.
And I see that as, yeah, that's definitely the first step. And I add that, the Second Amendment protects the first.
Mm-hmm.
But to close, the actual final word is a quote by the late great George Carlin. When fascism comes to America, it will not be in brown and black shirts. It will not be with jackboots. It will be Nike sneakers and smiley shirts.
He said that.
He said that.
Man, there's a lot of things that guy said are way ahead of his time, but I did not know he said that. That's exactly right. That is exactly
I
right.
would. He is on the list of people. You have those like, oh, who in history, alive or dead, would you like to have dinner with?
Mm-hmm.
George motherfucking Carlin is up there at the top of that list because he's a dude who he was very smart. He wasn't afraid to push the limits, and yeah, I think right now he'd be looking at this shit, just thinking, what the fuck are you people doing?
I think the worst part about that is he really wouldn't be able to say anything. You know, he'd get shut down as a comedian. He'd never.
Nah,
He,
he'd still do it.
you think so?
Yeah.
Mm. Well, interesting stuff there to end the show. Don't forget to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Tell your friends, share the video. More
Share your
important,
video on social media.
yes, yes. Share it on your Twit face. Share it on that. Um,
Yep. Share it on your Twitter, your face space, and
YouTube, Twitter,
my book.
FaceSpace. Yeah. Does I don't think anybody does that. I don't think anybody does MySpace anymore. Do they?
I think it still exists.
It may exist, but I don't know. What happened to good old Mike? Right? It was Mike. No, it was Tom.
Tom.
Tom. That's who it was. Tom was awesome. Dude, Tom was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Jack Dorsey following everybody. What the fuck is that shit?
Well, What a
Come on, Jack.
get that nose ring out of your nose for fuck's sake, please. That is just
You're a grown man, dude.
well, he just looks like a straight creeper with that beard and that nose ring.
Hey,
He was on Jeffrey's Island. I put money on it. We just got to find the logs. He was there.
actually, didn't they just release another bunch of transcripts yesterday or today?
I don't know. I don't. You're the one that knows it that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I don't. I didn't know that.
Everybody knows that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
You just find ways to enlighten me at least once a week with a random meme about how Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So, but but yeah, we're gonna leave now. Next week we are gonna have someone on the show. He's a multicultural person. I look forward to picking this guy's brain. I know Darian doesn't know who he is yet. I met the guy playing Call of Duty. That's like my scope of meeting people is just playing video games with them. So he's gonna be on next week. Great guy, very well read, very interesting perspectives on Americanism, American culture, and where he's from. But until then, we will see you guys next week. I'm Jake,
I'm Drake.
and this is the Jake and Drake Show. We'll see y'all next week.